So today I'm joined by a small number of people as we discover what life is like at the secondary school when it's an online school. So we have the head of secondary, that's Emily Booth. We have the deputy head of secondary, Emily Peters, and we also have the secondary leader of teaching and learning, Lauren Galligan, and she is also a science teacher. I wonder though, first of all, Emily B, if you can just tell us as head of secondary school, tell us a little bit about your background. So how you stepped into the world of working in education in the first place.
Sure. So I'm originally from the United States, so originally from Atlanta, Georgia, and I did my initial steps in my teaching career in Georgia. So doing my teacher training and my first couple of years as a teacher, I taught secondary history and government and politics, which was really, really fun to do in the context of teaching in Georgia. And then I moved to Edinburgh in 2017 and kind of stumbled into the world of online education, starting with my online schooling as education coordinator. That evolved into the deputy head of secondary, and then in February 2021, I became the head of secondary school, and it's been an absolute pleasure to be on this journey with my online schooling and watching the school develop in the last 3 years.
Fantastic. So you talk about history there. Tell me then, I've just got to ask this very quickly. What's your favorite period in history to teach when you're teaching full time, that is?
Oh gosh, that's such a good question. I've got a real passion for American history, and my favorite period to teach is early American history. So probably, 1760 to about 1800 would be, I could talk about that all day long.
Fantastic. What a great period to explore. And also, I'd love to understand a little bit, just very briefly, what your feelings were about the concept of online education when you first heard of it.
That's a really great question. It's not something that I was really familiar with as a fully online school. I come from teaching in a bricks and mortar school, having your physical classroom, having students come every day. So it wasn't a concept I was familiar with at all. But very quickly, I was able to see, oh my gosh, there's the child that I wasn't able to reach and I wasn't able to support fully in my physical classroom. They would have thrived at this. This would have supported them. And I was able to make those connections between pupils I had taught and really recognize that online education can be a way of supporting those students to achieve their goals. And very quickly, I realized that this could be a solution that works for a great number of people that are currently not able to access education through the mainstream system.
That was great to hear. Thanks for sharing that with us. Now, Emily Peters, Deputy Head of the Secondary School, tell us about your journey into working in this wonderful world of education.
So I joined the school at a similar time to Emily Booth, but I joined as a science teacher, which is what my background was, also coming from a mainstream school. And I stumbled upon my online schooling as a happy accident. It's actually an interesting story. Lauren's uncle used to be my head of department in my last school. And he told me that his niece worked at an online school because he knew that I wasn't well at the time and I was looking for something alternative. I was struggling a little bit in the mainstream setting just due to an illness that was ongoing at the time. And so he recommended my online schooling to me, and I thought that's very interesting. They happened to be looking for a physics teacher and I happened to be looking for an alternative physics opportunity. So again, it was a happy accident and not something I was familiar with beforehand, but yes, very similar to Emily Booth, turned out to be such a fantastic long-term opportunity that I had no idea what I was getting into and learnt so much so quickly.
Fantastic. What a great story. Thank you for sharing that with us. Tell us a little bit about why you love science so much, and you mentioned physics in particular, why you like physics so much.
Well, Simon, we wouldn't be here without physics. If you want me to talk about science for an hour, I certainly will do. But just the ideas, these concepts that are so much bigger than what we can see and what we can feel around us is one of the reasons why I'm absolutely obsessed with space. This idea that we're relatively insignificant by comparison to the rest of the universe. It's something that I like to remind myself of whenever I'm worrying or stressing about something which actually probably doesn't matter that much in the grand scheme of things. So I love science because it explains everything and it also just raises so many questions that we'll probably never know the answer to.
And what's your favourite astronomy fact, would you say?
Ooh, my favourite astronomy fact, I think, would have to be, I'll go with a nice, straightforward one. The speed of light. Light travels at 300 million metres per second, which means all of the light that we see from the sun is about 8 minutes old by the time we see it.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that with us. This podcast is turning into a science lesson as well. It's fantastic. Every day is a school day, they say, and that's certainly true here. Now, Lauren, leader of teaching and learning at My Online School, we know that about you. We know something about your uncle as well, thanks to Emily just now. Tell us a little bit, though, about your own journey into the world of education.
Mine was a bit of an accident as well, really. After I'd done my undergrad and masters in chemistry, I decided to start a PhD in chemistry. And about 6 months in, you had the opportunity to start working with the undergrads and do some lab work and tutoring or seminars. And I just realised I actually really, really love that. And I wasn't really enjoying the research side of the PhD anymore. So it was a bit of an accident. So from that I thought, right, I'm going to quit here. I don't want to spend another 3 years doing something I don't like, and I started my teacher training. This was down in Warwick, and I knew that I was going to need to move back up north, and I came across this as an accident again, and just something that I could teach no matter where I was in the UK, because I didn't know where I was going to be settling at the time, and I just liked the flexibility and just being able to teach wherever I end up.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, and thank you for sharing that with us. Now, Emily, just give us a quick overview of life at the secondary school at My Online Schooling, it being an online school, and also how it differs in some ways, apart from the obvious ways, to a bricks and mortar school.
Sure. So I think the unique thing about online schooling with My Online Schooling is how similar we actually are to a mainstream school. We have a really, really strong secondary community, a lot of opportunities for enrichment within the school and extracurricular activities. So for our students, while they may have some more flexibility in their schedule, the opportunities that are available to them are really similar to the opportunities that are available in a mainstream school. We cover quite a large sector, a large segment of My Online Schooling, covering from year 7 to year 13 across 3 key stages. So it is quite a large part of the school with a lot of different areas and facets to it, from Key Stage 3, supporting students who are moving from the junior school to secondary school and creating a really nurturing environment for those students. And then working with our Key Stage 4 and 5 students as they do their international GCSEs and their A-levels, and supporting them through to examinations. So it's broad, but we also have our support groups and intervention pathways to support students with their academics, but we also care very deeply about supporting the whole child, including their social development, and also giving them opportunities for enrichment to be able to foster their passions. So that might be in our form groups, where they get to meet with small groups of students in their year groups and have their form teacher that they form a close relationship with. We also have guest speakers coming in throughout the year to talk to students. We have a scientist coming in to talk about their career, giving students options of how they might get into a career in science. We've had people from universities come to speak to students about different career opportunities and different interests that they might have, to get students excited about the curriculum that we're teaching and what further opportunities lie ahead for them.
Awesome. It's great to see the reaction on Emily's face when you mentioned about a scientist as a guest speaker. She couldn't help but break into a smile. It's fantastic.
She loves it.
Emily, tell me a little bit more about this nurturing environment, because if I was to play devil's advocate, then I could easily say that in a bricks and mortar school, it's quite easy to be nurturing because somebody can, physically be alongside a child in a school and can talk to them about things that might be concerning them and helping them on their journey as they grow up and turn from being, young children into young adults. How does that actually look in an online environment, though?
I think the difference being online is with the size of our classes. We only have a maximum of 20 students in our classes. And oftentimes, depending on the class, there might be less than that. But in a mainstream classroom, the teacher is worried about 1,000 different things at one time. And even though teachers might have the opportunity to go up to a child and speak to them one-to-one, that rarely happens because of all of the things that teachers are worried about doing other than actually spending time with a child and learning about who they are and supporting their academic development. With our small class sizes and with the approach that we have, we're able to connect with every single child and really develop an individualized learning plan for that child that's going to support them. And again, we just care so much about the students that we have, and for our teachers it's really important. We know a lot of where our students are coming from, which might be quite negative experiences in a mainstream school environment, and we're aware of that, and we take that into account with how we run our lessons to make sure every child feels seen and heard by their teacher and recognized and feels like they're respected in every class that they're in.
Thanks, Emily. Switching across to other Emily now. Emily Booth was just mentioning about children being seen and heard and everyone feeling like they're being seen and heard. How do you find that plays out, not just in the classes that you experience, but with the other teaching staff at My Online Schooling, how they see that from one day to the next?
Yeah, it's definitely something which surprised me when I first became an online teacher and then transitioned into the deputy head position, that the relationships that our teachers build with the pupils are strong relationships that are just wonderful to watch flourish. Emily Booth mentioned earlier that some of these pupils would not have had the confidence to speak up in the mainstream classroom due to a number of different factors, but thanks to our small class sizes and our dedicated teaching staff, we start to see these bonds build in this really calm and supportive environment. And while some pupils might feel more comfortable using their camera or using their microphones, and other pupils may feel more comfortable just chatting to their teacher, maybe with a private message, whatever means they use, we're really seeing those relationships flourish. And I know that personally, when I've spent time in the classroom, it's been wonderful to see every individual personality shining through in a way that might not be expected in an online capacity. It really has been amazing.
Do you find then that people have the ability, I guess, to sort of, express themselves and to be free to do that in the way that suits them, where in a traditional bricks and mortar environment, they may feel a bit, intimidated by their classmates, for example?
Yes, it's a shame. There are certain barriers for young people, teenagers. They've got all these various things going on, and there is sometimes a sense of insecurity, whereas I think from the comfort of your own home, it really does remove some of those barriers and allow pupils to relax a little bit and have some more control over their learning environment, and that opens up the opportunities for social connections, and again, everybody learns better when they're feeling relaxed and prepared for their lesson. So definitely a benefit for the pupils, I would say.
Lauren, one of the things Emily mentioned a couple of minutes ago was one of the surprises that she discovered when she stepped into the world of an online education. Thinking back to your time with My Online Schooling, what surprises do you feel that you may have encountered on that journey?
I think I was surprised at how deep of a relationship and connection you can build even through a chat box. Some of our pupils don't feel comfortable using their webcam and mic, but even through the chat box and through messaging on Canvas, you can still have such a wonderful relationship. And I do feel, even though I've not seen some of my pupils' faces, I know them. I know what their interests are, what their aspirations are. I love hearing what they did over the weekend. I know all about their families, and that surprised me, just what connection you can build even though you're not face to face.
No, I see that. Thanks for that, Lauren. Emily P., I'm just going to jump back to you again. It'd be great to understand a bit more about the next steps of children in their future. So when they leave My Online Schooling, what their next steps are, and whether they step out into the world of work or whether they go off to university. What do you find their next steps tend to be?
So as with any education setting, we do have a variety of paths that pupils can take and choose to take after their education with My Online Schooling. For pupils who are in the lower year groups prior to any certificates and qualifications that they might have received, some of our pupils do feel empowered after learning with My Online Schooling to transition back into a mainstream building, where for those pupils that may not have been a possibility before. So that's always a positive step. For our pupils who have completed their examinations at GCSE and also at A-level, we are implementing a lot of support to empower them to move into university or to move straight into the workplace. And one of the ways in which we're doing that is with our brand new Next Steps program, which we're rolling out for this academic year 21-22, and that will be specifically targeting our Year 11 and Year 13 pupils, and as you've mentioned, preparing them for what comes next after My Online Schooling.
Wow. Tell me a little bit more about the Next Steps program. How does that work? What actually is it and how does that work?
So our Next Steps program, it's a brand new initiative that we're launching. We're really excited about it. So it falls in the period after examinations are finished. So pupils are doing revision and preparing for their examinations and lessons are running. And then at the end of June, after examinations finish, we start a 4-week program to support students as they prepare for what comes next. So the first 2 weeks are specific career guidance support, and we're bringing in different experts and professionals to run sessions with students on different options that are available to them, whether that be apprenticeships or thinking about entering university, how to support with UCAS, and that also involves one-to-one career support and guidance for students who really need that one-to-one support to find out and explore what their next steps are going to be. The second half of the Next Steps program involves a 2-week entrepreneurship kind of crash course where students are going to be working in groups and pitching products and coming up with business ideas and thinking about how that's pitched. And it's important to us. My Online Schooling started out as an entrepreneur having an idea and having a passion for education, and we want to build that same spirit in our students and really foster their creativity and show them what's possible with a bit of creativity and a bit of planning. So students will pitch all of their ideas, and we are rounding out our Next Steps program with a graduation ceremony to celebrate the achievements of our Year 11 and 13 students who have finished their Key Stage 4 and Key Stage 5 program, which is a fantastic achievement and really deserves to be celebrated.
Fantastic. That really does sound like a great opportunity for celebration. And when you talk about exams, I mean, you've mentioned GCSEs and A-levels. Given the fact that My Online Schooling is a fully online school, are those like, regular GCSEs and regular A-levels that are recognised by universities just in exactly the same way?
Exactly. So our students get international GCSEs that are from Pearson EdExcel, and they'll have the same certificate that a student studying in a mainstream school would have who has studied international GCSEs with that exam board. For Cambridge A-levels, we have recently very proud moment, but we've recently gotten our accreditation through Cambridge International. So our A-level program is accredited through Cambridge, and when students get their certificate, it will say that they've received their international A-levels through My Online Schooling, which is very exciting and will really further support our school and our students as they go out into the world. And anywhere that accepts British qualifications will accept the qualifications that students get through My Online Schooling.
Fantastic. And I love this talk of international, when you talk about international A-levels, international GCSEs. Lauren, let me just ask you, as a leader of teaching and learning, when it comes to the international side of school life, how do you see that playing out in everyday life in the classrooms?
Well, within our schemes of work and our curriculum, we actively try to have an international mindedness within it. So making sure that even though we're teaching the British national curriculum, not all of our lessons and examples are talking about the weather in England or festivals in England. We make sure teachers bring in a nice range from all around the world. Within the classroom, it's great to have pupils from all over the world, because you can have conversations and it's amazing to hear them tell you about different holidays and festivals, maybe even the weather where they are. Just thinking about in some of my classes, so recently in Year 8 Science, we're having a look at rocks, and there's a type of weathering that, I'm not going to bore you with it, there's a type of weathering that happens to rocks. And I said, I've never seen this because where I live, it's not possible for this to happen. And it was amazing that some other pupils could pop their hand up and say, well, actually, yeah, this does happen near me, and explain why, and then be able to go out, get pictures and come and show us. So there's just so many opportunities, even when you wouldn't expect it, for pupils to take a glimpse into other people's lives, locations, holidays, festivals and that.
It's an opportunity for enrichment that we don't even have to plan, because it happens so naturally with all of our students being based all around the world. You could have a class with students from 4 different continents, and that's so valuable for all of our students to, while this world is becoming even more global and more international, to have those experiences when they're young of meeting other students their age and forming those relationships with students from all around the world. And it really develops students holistically, and really develops their international mindedness and their cultural awareness, which I think is such an important facet of secondary school. And we can really develop that without too much effort, which is fantastic. It all just happens naturally.
Awesome. It's great to get that input then from each of those different people around the world. That's fantastic. We need to bring this podcast episode to a close, but actually I've got one last question for each of you. As we get closer and closer towards summer, and in the UK at least, the weather is getting better and better, do any of you have any good plans to get out of the country, to go anywhere at all, to experience a nice bit of holiday? Emily, B, do you want to go first?
Well, I'm getting married this summer, so hopefully...
Oh, wow. Congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you. Hopefully I'll get to spend some time on a honeymoon, or we can go get away. It's been a couple of years since we've been able to do a trip, I'm sure, like everyone. So hopefully can go somewhere warm. That's the goal.
Very good. Well, I hope you have a great wedding and a great honeymoon. That's fantastic. Emily P., can you top that?
Well, I'm going to stay in Edinburgh, and I'll have to hold down the fort while Emily's away enjoying herself. But no, on a serious note, I have no current plans. I have to admit, I'm looking forward to getting out and exploring the Scottish countryside a little bit. I'm still relatively new to the area, so that's going to be my summer goal.
Fantastic. Well, it's always good to explore the local area. And Lauren, how about you? What are your plans?
Well, I've already had my holiday this year. I went to Barcelona over the Easter holidays, so no plans over the summer. However, Emily P., if you need someone to explore the Scottish countryside, let me know.
Don't leave me out. I'll come too.
Oh no, we'll wait until you're back then.
Fantastic. Well, look, it's been great talking to all of you. It's been great to understand more about the secondary school, to understand all of these different things that are happening in everyday school life, to understand some of the differences and a lot of the similarities between a bricks and mortar school and this online education concept as well. But thank you very much for all of you for being here. Great that you could give up your time and to be here to share that with all of us here today. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Simon.